In life, there are some things that are just a certainty: death, taxes, and AFC Barcelona pumping Olympique Lyonnais in the Women's Champions League final. Such is the nature and cruelty of life. Welcome back to mismapasion. Let's get right into it. Now, as of me recording this video, it's been 3 days since the official curtain dropped on the 25-26 European women's football season, with of course FC Barcelona taking on Olympique Lyonnais. I refuse to call them Olympique Lyon, Lyons, whatever it is. It's Lyonnais to me. Sue me. It's been 3 days since Lyonnais got clobbered by Barcelona in Oslo in Norway. 4-0, by the way, for anyone who's curious to know what the result was. And initially, I was going to talk about that match in a vacuum, but after some reflection, I realized that this match was quite significant, almost in the same way that the end of the WSL season and generally the end of this European season was across the board, as I'm sure you'll have seen it being flaunted about quite a lot, but it really feels like the end of an era, not only in domestic competitions, but in European football, in the women's game in general. It genuinely feels like the end of an era. And once I started playing with that idea a lot more in my mind, I just decided, especially after the WSL season had concluded, that I'm not going to do two separate videos. I'm just going to combine it into just one little big video to just kind of explain my thoughts on this and just to give my 2 cents, and then hopefully hear from you as well about the fact that I think this is the end of a particular generation in the WSL, and I think next season's going to be quite interesting to see what's going to happen. And I think there's no better place to start than at the very end, which is, of course, taking us to Norway. Now, of course, when you look at the scoreline, you would not be very wrong to assume that it was one-way traffic from the first whistle up until the final whistle. But to their credit, Olympique Lyonnais did put in a decent account of themselves, and Barcelona had a much tougher time of things, as you would not really come to expect of Barcelona, at least on the big European stages. Hell, even last year in their final against Arsenal, Barcelona were dominating, and I would like to think that their performance last year was much more inspired than their performance was this year, at least within the first half, because at least last year they had Arsenal just reeling on the ropes, whereas in this situation, Olympique Lyonnais were not only hanging in there, but they were actually carving out a few decent opportunities for themselves. Now, obviously, when it comes to navigating a final, Barcelona have more recent experience than Olympique Lyonnais do, and of course, come after the hour mark of the game, Barcelona just opened up, and I think Olympique Lyonnais, they tried to hang in there, but ultimately they just couldn't. And that's when we got to the dropping section of the final, which is still okay for Olympique Lyon. I think they should definitely hold their hands up and say, you know what, we gave it a good try, but the better team won, which is kind of a weird thing to be saying, because Barcelona were without Bonmati for most of the game. She was on the bench and she did come off the bench, but she didn't feature all that much. And in hindsight, that's really not saying that much, because the other players you'd expect to be there to help steer Barcelona through the waters of a final were there, like Alexia Putellas. She was there, she featured, she was as dominant as she usually is. Eva Pavel, who was the player of the match for the final, she was there, she scored twice, she had a good going of it. Sama Parapuelo was also there, so it's not like Barcelona were missing too many of their key players, if any at all. Olympique Lyonnais, on the other hand, they also had their players available, and same old story, yada yada yada. But this was their first final in quite a bit, and it was quite obvious to see where this game was going to go even before the match started. It would have been interesting, in my personal opinion, to see if maybe Barcelona could be upset maybe twice in a row when it comes to Champions League finals, but clearly that was not to be the case, and that's not take away anything from the Catalans, nor Olympique Lyonnais. But at the same time, it's just, man, who cares? But when it comes to the theme of the end of an era, this is not only with regards to Olympique Lyonnais, but also just a little bit towards Barcelona themselves. Because, of course, there have been rumblings that the likes of Ona Patier and Mapi Leon, they're on their way out of Barcelona. And this is obviously in line with not only just the passing of the torch in their situations, but also with the current state of affairs in Barcelona. I talked about this in my video where I was talking about Marie-Louise Etta and her time at Union Berlin. At the time, by the way, she ended it quite well, which is good to see. But getting back to the matter at hand, it just seemed like it was the end of an era for those kinds of players. Barcelona, they're still struggling financially. The women's team was hit quite emphatically by the financial struggles that the overall institution of FC Barcelona are currently dealing with. And it's going to be interesting to see what Barcelona do to address that. Are they going to be dipping back into their academy system to just unearth some more gems of theirs, or are they going to be dipping into, of course, the transfer market to sign some players if possible? There's some good players who are available to them on a free, potentially, if they want to, like the likes of Katie McKay, for example, who can definitely put in a good shift across the back line and even in midfield, as we've seen during her time at Arsenal. Or again, they can go back and dip into the academy system and unearth some gems like Aicha Kamara, for example, who, in my view, has been quite good for Barcelona. Obviously, having come up through the youth system, and I think there's still a lot more that she can provide, especially long term. She's only 19, so she's got time. And for Olympique Lyonnais, where do I even start? They've got so many players who are potentially somewhat over the hill. Of course, in the women's game, when you reach 30, it's not the end of your career. In some instances, it just means you're actually about to kick off. But there are some players who you start to think, okay, maybe it's time they start winding down, or they could be looking at winding down. Obviously, people look at the likes of Wendy Renard to say, okay, she's had her time in the limelight, but maybe it's time for her to hang it up. But personally, I don't see it happening. I think she still has a lot to offer, not only for Olympique Lyonnais, but just women's football in general. And I don't think she has to wind down in general. But I don't think at any point I cannot foresee a future, especially in the next few months, where she decides to just move on from Olympique Lyonnais. Because she's pretty much done everything she can. You know, personally, I think she's done it all. And she's got nothing more to prove. And that's to say of a lot of players at Olympique Lyonnais. Salma Bacha, who's one of the franchise players at Olympique Lyonnais, I think she can just pack it up and go somewhere else and just like seek some adventure in another league. Lindsay Heaps as well, same situation with her. I think she could definitely just benefit from a new atmosphere, a new environment, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And it's kind of sounding like I'm nitpicking, which I promise you I'm not, but it just felt very weird to me, at least, just to see some of these players and just really realizing that, oh my goodness, these guys have been around for so long, and potentially for some of them, this is their final, maybe ever, maybe for the current club they represent. Hopefully it's the latter more so than the former. But at the same time, you're just wondering and saying to yourself, maybe it's time. Maybe it's just time to just move on and see what's happening, what's new. And personally, in my view, or at least when it comes to Olympique Lyonnais, I expect to see a lot of movement from Lyon to London for obvious reasons. And if I don't see that, then I'm going to be pleasantly surprised that Michelle Kang won't do such a thing. But in that regard, it did feel like this was pretty much the end for some of these players, at least with respect to their current clubs. And then looking at Europe in general, and the theme of eras coming to an end, where do you even start? You know, you can go to England with obviously the departures of Beth Mead, the aforementioned Katie McCabe, Sam Kerr. All of them are departing slash have departed their clubs in Arsenal and Chelsea respectively at the end of their contracts, of course. If you jump across to Germany, you got Alexander Popp, someone who is pretty much associated, so deeply entrenched in Wolfsburg. She's left and she's gone to Borussia Dortmund. And yes, you can understand and say, oh, she's not as explosive as she used to be. She's a bit long in the tooth and whatnot. That's okay. But still, she is a foundational icon of, I guess, the current state of women's football as we see it. Like, in my view, at least. She's one of the players who first come to mind when you say women's football. And just like that, she's pretty much no longer in the top league, at least in the country that she's playing in. And it's so odd to think that she's going to be wearing a color that's not the green of Wolfsburg. It's very weird. It's odd. And just staying in Germany for a little bit, you got Eintracht Frankfurt releasing so many key players, from Geraldine Reuteler to Nicole Agnomi, and it's just interesting to just see where all these clubs are going with all of these departures, all of these releases, and all of these things in between. Because whilst it's not necessarily like such a bad thing that these players are moving on and these clubs are moving on from these players, but it's just very hard to just see it as anything more than just, like I said, the end of an era. It just seems that there's a new fresh coat of paint that's going to be applied to women's football, at least in Europe, from next season. And it's just very interesting to see where things go. In my view, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens with the WSL. Obviously, with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea looking to fight Man City for the crown of becoming WSL champion, Arsenal themselves are going to go through somewhat of another transition season as they look to build up on their improvement over the last two seasons, but to also just kind of solidify themselves so that they can be more consistent in their title challenges that they have been in the last few years, especially last season, of course. Chelsea, on the other hand, they've lost a lot of legends, of course. In addition to Sam Kerr, Millie Bright has retired from the professional game, wishing her a very happy and peaceful retirement. They are also going to be going through a rebuild of their own, much more extensively, and arguably the most extensive in the entire WSL. The WSL itself has gone through its own rebuild because now there are 14 teams, not 12 teams. Leicester City have gone down. Congratulations to Charlton Athletic for being promoted to the WSL. There's just a lot going on in women's football. And this new era does promise to be exciting. It promises to be something that's going to be very worthwhile to look at, and something that's worthwhile to also just be tuning into, because we just really don't know where it's going to be going. And that's why it's such a big deal. That's why it's an end of an era, because most of these players were so synonymous with these clubs that they play for and have played for, they're not going to be there for next season. That's the craziest thing. But maybe the more things change, the more they'll stay the same. It's just got to be a matter of time. And we'll just have to just wait and see where it goes. And just maybe, it might just be the best thing for women's football, at least. At least I hope so. I think the injection of new blood and new life into all of these different leagues, as well as these different clubs, I think it could be a good thing. As long as it just makes things more interesting, of course, in terms of title races. I'm sick of always seeing Bayern Munich win in the Frauen Bundesliga and so on and so forth. It's good to see some jeopardy in these different leagues. It's good to see some new challengers come up. It's good to see some new faces and all those other things. And it's just interesting. And also, just a word on the Women's Europa League final. Where was the coverage for that? I personally had no idea that the final was going on until like on my recommended Twitter feed, I just saw Felicia Schroeder scored a hat trick, and I was just like, okay, she scored a hat trick in the UEFA Cup final. How come I didn't hear about that? And it's not to say I was hoping UEFA would just send me a personal message say like, oh hey, by the way, the UEFA Cup final is here. But I would have thought that given that it's the inaugural competition, I really would have thought that UEFA would have done a better job of marketing and advertising this match, because this is the first ever final in this new competition format that you've introduced. This is your way of showing that you care about women's football. And you can't even advertise it. You can't even tell us the teams that are playing in this final. We have to find out from third parties that this is happening at this moment in time. I think that was just a real bad show of faith by UEFA. This is their own competition. I don't think they did enough to advertise or to market the match. Yes, it was free on their YouTube channel to watch live, by the way, but again, there was no marketing behind it. There wasn't even like any press tours to say this is where it's happening at this time. Come watch these two teams, those two teams being, of course, Häcken and Hammarby. There was none of that. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame because it was very interesting to watch the second leg. I didn't watch the first leg. Guess what? It's a two-legged final. It's not just a one-off. It's not just a one-off match. I do feel like so much more should have been done, but not enough was done, especially in the end, to give more credence and to give more thought into this game. And it just shows. And it's a shame that this is how it ended up becoming. And I feel sorry for the teams who were involved in this, aka Hammarby and Häcken. They deserve so much better from the organizers. Shout out to the fans who were there, because it looked like it was packed and it was very noisy in that match that I watched. Of course, it was just the second leg of the final. But other than that, there was nothing, completely nothing. And one can hope, one can pray that next season, when the cup final takes place again, is more marketing. There's more intentional thoughts and intentions that go into this final and the competition in general. Because I don't even think a lot of people even knew that it was happening. And obviously, like, the women's game deserves so much better than that. And it's a shame that this is still what we're getting in good old 2026. But it's not a surprise. It's just more disappointment. That's all it is. It's just extra disappointment on top of what's already there. But yeah, women's football is in a very interesting space right now. And it's going to be just as, if not more interesting, to see where it goes from here. Especially with this end of an era. Especially to see how these teams are going to react to losing so many key players. To see how these players who are leaving, are going to be leaving soon enough, are going to be taking things. Where are they going to be looking to land up? Where are they looking to go in the next stage of their careers? What are their prospects long term? Do they have anything that they still feel like they can achieve or that they need to achieve in order to really put a nice little line in the sand to say this has been a very satisfying career? It's going to be very interesting to keep watch of and to just see come the 2026-2027 season. But yeah, those are my 2 cents on the entire end of an era in women's football. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, it's a very odd time that we are in. I'm gonna be very weirded out personally to see McKay, Pilova, Codina, Mead, and any other player I forgot from Arsenal is also leaving. Williams, Zinsberger. It's gonna be weird for me to see them wearing out their team's jerseys. It's just gonna be very weird. I'm sure it's gonna be weird for all of you who support different teams to see players who are leaving and going to wear other teams' jerseys. But such is life. Time keeps moving, and at some point we all just also gotta move on. But yeah, not to get too deep or sentimental about that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.